I got some bread. I got some good news. The white people that work for me at Warner Brothers made an announcement that caused my stock to pop even further. Some of you have heard me talk about my investment in Warner Brothers. I mentioned to you I bought Warner Brothers stock because I saw the Superman movie. Anybody remember that? I don't know if anybody was there when I talked about that, but I bought this stock because I saw the Superman movie and I said, I think they're gonna do like this Marvel Cinematic Universe thing. And Warner Brothers has been absolutely catastrophically bad at taking good ideas and turning them into bad ones. Like who in the hell who can ruin Batman versus Superman, right? You make Batman versus Superman, that's supposed to be a hit, it's supposed to be perfect, and it was terrible. And so anyway, as we start Monday in the morning, I want to um tell you guys about what's going on with Warner Brothers and what's caused the stock to just go up enormously since I bought it. And believe me, I made some money. I could buy dinner for everybody in this room with the money that we made. So somebody go tell my wife so she'll give me extra kisses today because y'all I know y'all ladies like a man who knows how to make money. All right, so let me stop being stupid and let me tell you all what's going on and why this topic is of interest to me. Well, let me see. I'm going to pull up a screenshot of the stock price and just so you can see it. All right, let me see. Warner Brothers stock price. Here we go. Okay. All right. So here's the deal. Here's what's happened. And again, you can't predict these things. I mean, I don't want to sit here and pretend like I have some extraordinary stock picking ability because that would be a lie. I told you all about the efficient markets hypothesis. You cannot predict the direction of an individual stock, even with a PhD. You can't. PhDs have tried to do it. It's very, very difficult to do because stock prices follow what's referred to as a random walk. That means they randomly move. You cannot predict, right? But if you go see the Superman movie and you have a vibe, and I was vibing with it, the Superman movie was really good, by the way. The funny thing about it though is I wasn't, I'm old school. I'm not used to watching Superman get his ass kicked. He was getting his ass kicked about 70% of the movie, which was really weird for me. Like I think we're in the age of vulnerability now, where everybody's like all in their feelings, and you got men that want to live the soft life and stuff. And so, but maybe that just relates to a new generation. I still like the movie, so they achieved that goal of keeping old people like me and appealing to people like our son who we have a 30-year gap. So I guess that they succeeded at that. But anyway, with that being said, let's get back to it. All right, so here the stock went up about a little bit less than 10% today. Last 5 days, you can see that little pop right there, where this represents a recent rumor about takeovers, basically. And I'll tell you about that in a second. If you go back to last month, it's up a little bit the last month. The last 6 months, though, up quite a lot, 153%. I probably bought it like I don't know. Let me see. What is this? October. I'm guessing I bought it around here, right? So I missed all of this. I didn't buy it at 7.94, but I probably bought it at 12 or $13, and it's gone up quite a lot. Now, if you want to know what I did at that point, I shaved some of the stock off. I went ahead and sold about half of my stake, and I'm still going to maintain my investment in Warner Brothers because I kind of like having white people working for me. We were your slaves for a long time, so you should be our slaves for a while. I'm kidding. You're not our slaves. And there are black people that work for Warner Brothers, and I'm not trying to be racist. I got to be really careful because I made a comment. I don't know if y'all know that YouTube just made a deal with how can I say this? I gotta say it in a way. How they made a deal with the people who own everything, but they don't like you to talk about the fact that they own everything. Anybody know what I'm talking? They probably own Warner Brothers. They're probably amongst the group of white people that work for me right now. And I probably should just stop saying white people because I'll probably get in trouble. And so here's what happened. So YouTube made a deal with their group because they've kind of taken a little bit of a PR hit because sometimes like killing babies and stuff is just bad for your public image. And so they made a deal with YouTube because they want to manage the anti-blanketism, if you know what I'm talking about. I can't even say that word. I'm even nervous about saying the word. They got us all scared now. And so literally I made that comment and I said, yeah, this is why they own everything and this is their culture financially and this is how they were able to do that. And literally I got a message from YouTube. I got a strike on my channel, and then they sent me a note and they said, "You have a strike, and if you get three of these strikes, we're going to take your channel down." And then they put me through, like, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. They put me through like this 10-minute anti-Semitism training, right? Give me examples of different statements. And they said, is this considered hate speech or not? And everything related to things like denial of the Holocaust, or if you say that that this country's policies are bad and blah 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 blah. Like it's crazy. Like they, so literally, and they're doing that. They're also doing that at Northwestern University, where they've actually told the students that if you criticize what's going on in Palestine, you can be labeled anti, right? And I just sat there and I said, "Oh my God, this is so strange. This is a crazy dystopian reality that we're living in." But anyway, shout out to people like Farrakhan who called this many, 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 many decades ago. And in fact, actually, I was going to do an event with Farrakhan. I'm going to get back to this in a minute, but just it's just on my mind. I was going to do an event with Farrakhan in 2013. We were going to, I'd written a book called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, a new paradigm for Black America. And I was doing these events to basically talk about what it means to have a new paradigm for our community, what it means and I was talking about Project 2070, which is, I said, if we stick to the plan, then by the year 2070, our community will be the most financially educated, most financially intelligent group of people on the planet. We'll set the pace. We'll be the leaders. We'll be the winners. We'll be the big dogs in the house. And so the minister was going to join me, and we were going to go to the University of Illinois, Chicago. The students invited us. And right before the event happened, they just canceled it, just killed it. And thank God there was a church in the south side of Chicago. Don't remember the name of the church. They agreed to host us. We went down there, and it was an amazing experience. I don't have any video of it or anything. There's a few pictures floating around, but I sat with the minister for about 2.5 hours, and we were basically talking about these issues. I have a lot of respect for Farrakhan, and I don't care what anybody says. That's never going to change. So don't ever try to talk me out of it, because that's not going to be a long conversation. It'll be me sitting there listening to you like this, like an attentive child. And then I'm going to walk away and say, I don't care. That's still my man right there. So anyway, with that being said, let's circle back to, and why do I have that sort of unconditional support? It's because I like the Nation of Islam because they bring values to the Black community that are values that lead to success. They're big on family structure. Family structure is critical for wealth and power. If you don't have families, you don't have wealth and power. A nation full of baby mamas and baby daddies is never going to have any power, economically, politically, or otherwise. All you're going to be able to do is go to work for your white boss, um, go to vote for the Democratic Party, and listen to your pastor at church who is going to be a replacement for your husband, and let him why he tells you that you can't pick any man who doesn't also come to church with you, right? And then next thing you know, the community is weak. It's very weak and easily manipulated. And that's my truth. That's what I'm now. Again, I know that this perspective might be controversial, but you show me where real Black economic power is really being built in that paradigm. You just show me it's just not there, right? The Nation of Islam, they're big on family, they're big on education, they're big on self-reliance. And these are values that lead to a strong community. If you really want to understand a lot of what we talk about in class when it comes to the economic stuff, go back and listen to Malcolm X. Malcolm X had the blueprint down. He understood it better than anybody. You listen to Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, was all about, like, get up, you mighty race. Like, stop being a bunch of punks. Like, you're supposed to be on top. Stop acting like losers, right? I like that. I need that kind of pep talk. And so ultimately, I think that as a community, I think that that's what we should do, and we should not apologize for that. So anyway, let's go back to Warner Brothers. Let me talk about the stock, and I'm actually going to break this down into sort of a quick little financial lesson to help you understand why this is interesting to me. Besides the fact that the stock went up, and I was happy about that. So basically, here's what's going on. The Warner Brothers is reviewing a bunch of strategic alternatives, as they're calling it, including fully selling the company. Paramount Skydance, backed by David Ellison, who is the son of Larry Ellison, who is connected to Donald Trump. He's thinking about buying this company. Again, all of Trump's friends are getting rich right now. That's just what it is. That's what's happening. And also, the company's planning to split into two separate entities. And the big deal with that is that a lot of companies, these conglomerates, a lot of us think that a company that is a conglomerate that sells lots of products to lots of people in lots of different markets is a better company to invest in, right? General Electric was one of the ultimate conglomerates. They just wanted to do a little bit of everything for everybody. And what happens in financial research is that there's something called a conglomerate discount in the stock price. Google has this problem now. So basically, I'll read it to you. Basically, splitting the company into smaller units or selling divisions often reveals the sum of its parts is worth more than the whole company. Private equity companies are really good at peeling this out. They'll look at a company that has four divisions and they'll say this division, all these divisions together is worth $400 billion. But if we take this division, this one's worth 150, this one's 150, this one's 150, this is 150. If we split them out, we've got four divisions worth 150 billion. Let's break them into pieces, right? So a lot of times companies that are bigger and more diversified, they appear to be stronger, but really they're not. They're not stronger because really in an efficient economy, you should have specialization. In an efficient economy, you should have people doing what they do best. Stay in your lane. And then if investors want a diversified portfolio, they can just buy shares of your company and buy shares of that company, buy shares of that company, right? So if you got three companies, one makes tacos, one makes sneakers, and the other one makes balloons. You don't need a company that's the taco sneaker balloon company. That's usually not going to be as efficient as putting your money in a taco company, a sneaker company, and a balloon company. Tell me if that makes sense. Give me a yes if that adds up, if that's making sense to you right now. Okay. I want to make sure you get this idea. Okay. So basically, Warner Brothers Discovery is a little bit too bloated, apparently, according to what the investors feel. And so this is one of the reasons why when they announced that they were thinking about splitting into separate divisions, I think they're going to break into streaming and then something for global, something or another. I don't know. All these white people that work for me, they're doing their own thing. I let those people do what they want to do. And just run me my check. Just make sure I get because I'm the shareholder. The shareholders own the company. I want to be the owner. I don't want to be the worker. Our people have been working for a long time. All right. So anyway, it led to a boost in the stock price. Now, what's interesting also about this that you can learn is that it doesn't require the movement of stock prices doesn't really require you to actually do anything sometimes. Sometimes a rumor will move a stock price. A statement will move a stock price. And this is fascinating because this is a part of what I might call financial magic. There's lots of financial magic that happens in the markets. Like last night, well, a lot of you were there. I think a few hundred of you were there when we were doing our stock options training. And we talked for about 2 hours about how the market becomes a time machine, how you can sell and buy time on the market and make money from like you can sell another month and get $1,000 in your bank account. It's pretty exciting. And you saw Dr. Bingham. I don't know if Dr. Bingham's in here, man. I'm still tripping. Dr. Bingham, literally, he bought this stock at $7, and now it's worth like 100 and something. I forgot what it was. Something crazy. This man was, and he's like, yeah, I bought the 20,000 shares, and so this man's like in class telling everybody he made like $250,000 or something, which I thought was amazing. I don't remember how much it was. It was just a wild party. It was crazy. Just just liquor and bananas and dead animals everywhere. It was wild. It was a crazy class. Yeah, it was fun. A lot of you were there. And so basically, one of the things that we talk about when we have these stock options parties, let's maybe call them SOPs, stock options parties, is we talk about how you can sell time and make money by selling time. I think that's really, really fascinating. Well, here in the financial markets, and Donald Trump knows this better than anybody, you have this almost magical ability to turn words into wealth. Literally, I think there's a book with that title or something, but literally you can take words and those words can turn into real money. That's crazy. And what's fascinating, like for example, Trump knows this well. Why? Well, because he knows that he can get out there and make a statement on Twitter that will literally instantaneously create $1 trillion in economic value in the financial markets. Isn't that strange? Isn't that crazy? And what's even crazier is that not only can the words turn into real money, but the words don't even have to be true. It could be a lie. It could be a rumor. Isn't that's wild, right? that something fake, something from another dimension, like a lie you pulled from the eighth dimension, can get be vomited out of your mouth and on Twitter, and it can literally instantly create or destroy billions of dollars in wealth. That is beyond powerful. That is a type of power that you have to almost meditate on that and smoke a joint to really process what that actually means. This is deep stuff to me. Um, and so really when people say like money and wealth is partly a figment of our imagination, I can't disagree with you. You're kind of correct. The idea that somebody powerful enough could say some words that are not even true, make up a story, and that story can create real value and real wealth that you can then withdraw. I sold my stock this morning. I took the $3,000 or $4,000 that I made from selling a little bit of my stake, and that's money I put into my bank account. I could take that money to the grocery store. So, and this all came from a rumor. It came from the rumor that Warner Brothers is thinking about restructuring and thinking about being bought out. But I mean that's too, I don't know if anybody else thinks this is crazy, but I think it's very trippy. I've known this for many decades, but it's just as I'm thinking about it, it's kind of wild. So basically, what takeover rumors can also produce is something called herding behavior. David Hirschleifer on my dissertation committee is one of the experts in this area. And herding behavior basically means investors tend to move in flocks. So when things happen, you have the whole crowd going this way, the crowd going that way. And my big message to you is don't follow the crowd because sheep aren't that smart. Sheep don't really, and it's not that the sheep couldn't be smart. I mean, I'm sure sheep could like be intelligent if they wanted to be smart, but they're just being sheep. They're not using their brain. So it's not that they don't have a brain, it's that they're choosing not to use it because it's easier not to use your brain and to just follow the crowd as opposed to sitting back and strategically and critically thinking about what your next move is going to be. So just be really careful about the herding behavior. So when I saw the price shoot up, I backed out a little bit. I became a contrarian. It's not to say that I know for sure what's going to happen next, but what I did was I calibrated my risk. I said, okay, I made this investment. I don't know how much I invested. Maybe I invested $5,000. The 5,000 turns into 9,000 or something. So I say, okay, let me pull out 3,000, and now I've still got six, and let's see what happens. Maybe my long-term investment in Warner Brothers will pay off. But until then, I'm going to pull a little money off the table and keep it safe. Okay. So that's what's happening there. Now, if stock market investing is of interest to you, you know the Stock Market Investors Club, we meet at noon and you can come and ask me questions. We talk about stocks and everything going on. I'll tell you what I'm buying. If you want to join, if money is a barrier, I'm going to eliminate that barrier for you right now. The monthly fee to be in the Stock Market Investors Club is $89 a month. I will give you a link that will drop the price to $26 a month, and that will be your monthly fee now and forever. And it's this discount's available for the next 24 hours. So let me see if I can find it. And once I find it, I'll put it in the chat. And it's a reward to those of you who came in early. And also, I'll text it out to you also. I already did text it out this morning, actually. You may have gotten it this morning. All right, so let me grab that discount code and I'm going to put it in the chat so you can have it. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is this interesting trend I've been seeing on TikTok, where they're talking about like micro investing and micro saving and things like that. And I want to talk about micro saving and why I believe it's something you really want to look into and really want to think about, because it really does work. And there's scientific reasons in investor psychology regarding why it works. Okay. So by the way, here's the link. The link's in there now. So you should see it right now. Wherever you're watching, you should see it now. And so micro investing, let me see if I can find this really quick. I had some little notes I wanted to share in terms of talking about it. Yeah, so basically, micro investing is where you do little basic stuff like I used to keep this bag in my house, and whenever I came in, my habit was I would grab money and just whatever change I had in my wallet, I would throw it in that bag. Just throw it in that bag. Has anybody ever done that? Let me know if you've ever tried that before. And then let me know what you found when you tried it. Like what happened? Like what kind of surprised you about it? Yes, okay. So a lot of you have done it. If you had the same experience I had, you were always kind of shocked by how much money would accumulate in that bag, in that or that box or wherever you're putting your money. I mean, it was really amazing. I'm like, how is it that these little nickels, these little pennies I'm just throwing in here each day adds up to this big gigantic thing that's so big I can't even lift it. And that really made me think deeply about how our life really is a product of our habits. It's a product of your culture. It's a product of the things you do repetitively. That's what shapes everything. Like when you get fat, you don't get fat because you ate one really big meal. You gain weight because you ate a lot of meals, right? Right? Over time. Or you get in shape. You don't get in shape by doing one really good workout. You get in shape because you did 100, 200, 300, 400 workouts. And that's really life in a nutshell, actually. You talk to somebody who's been working a job for 25 years, if you add up 25 years, that's a lot of days at work. That's a lot of, 9 a.m. punching the clock. That's a lot of waking up at 7 a.m. or whatever that they had to do in order to do that, right? So really, when you start looking at the accumulation process, that actually helps you understand wealth very, very well, because that's what wealth looks like. When someone has a lot of money and someone sees it, they say, "Oh my God, how did you get so much stuff?" Well, it's typically because there's some trail of consistent behavior that they've engaged in that's led to an accumulation process that allowed it to become this big mountain of money. Just like snow, when you see a snowstorm, you go to Buffalo, New York. I used to live in Rochester, which I'd never seen that much snow in my life. But then I would watch the news and see what they had in Buffalo, and I would say, "Oh my God, those people are going to die." And you would ask, like, how did they get these 14-foot snow drifts? Well, it's not because they had one giant snowflake that landed on the city of Buffalo. There wasn't some big Hercules Godzilla snowflake that just landed all at once. It was these little tiny, tiny ass, insignificant, harmless little flakes that came down that would literally melt on your tongue, but there was like trillions of them. Right? Like, and they were consistently coming down for a certain period of time. And next thing you know, Buffalo is covered with snow. And that to me is really a microcosm of how you want to think about wealth, right? If you want to understand your life and why your life got to be what it is, or how to make it into what you need it to be, I don't want you to look at the macro. I need you to look at the micro. Don't look at the bigger picture in that particular case. Take your consciousness and switch from the bigger picture to the little picture. So you start with the bigger picture. I want to be a millionaire. I want to have lots of money. I want to own stuff. I want to quit my job. Great. That's the big picture. Good job. Now I want you to take your consciousness now and go micro with it and look at the little picture. Okay, what am I going to do for the next 30 minutes? What am I going to do today? What am I going to do the next 3 hours? What's my next move? What habits am I going to follow each day that are going to get me into the big picture? Because I'll just tell you a secret. I live my life in 30-minute intervals. I don't know how or why. I spent yesterday talking on the phone for an hour with my sister, my baby sister. I think I told you all this. We had a father that, drugs got him. I think that might have been part of the narrative. I can't, I got to learn more, but I think the drugs got him. But anyway, I saw a picture of him with my mama, and he's a big, strong, handsome looking man. I said, okay, that I came from that. That's what's up. But still, the drugs got him, right? Which just Anyway, long story short, we were talking about the fact that we both kind of struggle with ADHD, and I said, you got it too. I said, oh my God, I think we're related. And one of the things about the ADHD and my way of managing it is that I kind of can get overwhelmed with a great big bunch of stuff to do. Like if I have a to-do list with 80 things on it, and my to-do list always has 80 things on it. I've always got a million things happening. Like literally, in a given week, I'll have 8 people that will reach out to me for money. I'll have a billion different things happening. Boys, I need this. Hey, boys, I need that. Hey, boys, can you do this? Hey, boys, can you do that? Hey, boys, can you fly here? Hey, blah, 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 blah. Right? And it's very overwhelming. It can really feel overwhelming. A lot of you have lives like that too. Maybe it's your kids, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's something else you're trying to do, or maybe you're looking at your big goal and it just seems like so much. And so here's what I do. I'm not telling everybody to do it the same way, but this works for me, is I chop everything into 30-minute intervals. Every day, I rarely make my focus like, oh, this is the big vision. This is what we're going to do over the next 100 years. I think about that, right? I'll do that for a minute, but then I'll say, okay, boys, we know what we're going to do over the next 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, whatever. But what am I going to do for the next 30 minutes? Whatever you do for the next 30 minutes needs to be your focus because you got to do one thing at a time. And that's going to play a role in whether or not you can do the big thing. So to do the big thing, you got to do the little thing. Right? That's my point. To do the big thing, focus on the little thing. Start with the little thing first because the little thing is not intimidating. The little thing is seemingly insignificant. It's like, oh, well, I don't know if I can accomplish this big, gigantic goal over here, but I know that I can sit down and read for 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I can do that. Right. And then that's it. And that becomes my only goal in life. And so for me, it was a way of dealing with ADHD because if you and again, I don't even know. I've never been officially diagnosed. Well, I know in school the teachers used to say stuff to my mother. My mother told me to go to hell. But still, it's one of these things where it's really hard to solve big problems sometimes. And sometimes you don't know if you can do it, and then when you lose faith and then you give up. And the thing is that in most cases, God has a bigger plan for you than you have for yourself. In most cases, you're more capable of doing things than you actually believe that you are. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of times when you're looking at something big and intimidating, it's very easy to talk yourself out of it. I'm not worthy, I'm not capable, I can't do this, right? And so sometimes breaking it down into micro steps can allow you to not get in your own way. Do you see what I mean? I'm just here to tell you, everybody goes through this. If I have a big, gigantic job in front of me, I just get exhausted thinking about how much I got to do. And then I'm like, you know what? Instead of conquering the world, why don't I just go watch Netflix? Like that's easier to do. But if I break it into those little tiny increments, it's like, okay, well, let's just do this. Let's forget about this for now. Let's not think about the big picture, boys. Let's focus on the little thing. Let's show up to class this morning and do our best in that moment to be the best you can be right now. Right. And getting into those habits is what eventually shapes everything else that you want to do in life. So don't just look at the big thing, look at it so you know where you're going, but then look at the little thing, right? And so investing in wealth is the same way. So micro investing taps into that. And there's a science as to why this actually works. So let me break this down. There's something called the habit loop effect. And the habit loop effect basically says that small automatic investments train your brain to associate saving with ease instead of sacrifice. So when you're just dropping 30 cents into your into that bag, that's not hard. Everybody's got 30 cents. That's why I created the $5 a day plan. Because when I would talk about building wealth, I would have so many black people that would say, that's not possible. Black people can't build wealth. That's too much money. That's too hard. What you talk about, Negro? You crazy. I hate you. You sound like a Republican. So I was like, okay, how about this? How about this? How about we just say, let's invest $5 a day. You got $5? Can you do $5? Well, I can do $5. Well, what's that got to? Well, just do $5 for we'll do $5 for now, and then next day we'll do another $5. Then we'll do another $5, and then over time it's going to grow into something bigger. So don't to let the big stuff scare you. The big stuff starts with the little stuff. We know this. So the habit loop effect trains the brain to associate saving with ease instead of sacrifice. Acorns has a really good roundup feature where you can just set it to round up your transactions. Every time you go and you buy something that's $19.12, it's going to take it up, round it up to $20 and take the other 88 cents and put that in your stock portfolio. And then when you really want to get aggressive, you can 10x it. You can say instead of doing 88 cents, do $8.80. So that means every time I'm spending money, I'm going to be investing money. I'm already in the habit of spending consistently. So if I'm spending consistently, then that means I'll be investing consistently, which means that I'll be building wealth to counter the fact that I'm giving wealth away. Right. So what you do is you don't have to change who you are. You just take who you are and you just add a little tweak to it. You just add a little component, and then you can keep being who you are. And instead of being punished for being who you are, you can be rewarded for who you are. You see what I mean? I'm not a big advocate for changing who you are. I think that that's very hard to do. I don't give a shit about code switching and trying to, like play the game and be somebody different and all that. I don't want to do that. I like being Boyce. I like Boyce. I want to be Boyce. So in my own career, I instead of me saying, okay, how do I change who Boyce is and turn the ship around? I said, no, that I think Boyce is a good guy. I think Boyce has something good to add to the world. Instead, I said, let me go find a way that I can still be Boyce and be appreciated for the fact that because I'm Boyce, instead of being tolerated, despite the fact that I'm Boyce, right? That's a terrible, terrible feeling, right? So the same thing is true. Be yourself. Just figure out where your liability is and see if there's a way you can kind of do a little pivot or a little add-on that'll allow you to be rewarded for being yourself, right? Okay, so let me keep going. There's also something called the dopamine of progress. And it says this that basically when you watch your small balance grow, it taps into your reward system. You get a little boost. These are like, oh, an extra $12, right? And that little dopamine boost, it does become addictive. Dopamine is, in my view, just one of the culprit. It can be your greatest hero or your greatest culprit in this game called life. My father, unfortunately, I think someone introduced him to horrible drugs like heroin, and the dopamine spike from heroin led him to go in a certain direction in life. But there are also people who get dopamine from saving and investing money. They get dopamine from helping people. They get dopamine from raising their children. They get dopamine from loving their wife. They get dopamine from reading a book, right? They get dopamine from exercising, right? So you can get these dopamine hits in a lot of different areas. So really, I want us to all become drug dealers. And so I want us to deal that dope and go hit the dope as much as possible, but hit the healthy dope, right? So if you're gonna form an addiction, get that addiction to investing, get that addiction to saving. When we're all sitting together and we're talking about Oklo stock going up another 10%, that's a dopamine hit. We're all getting high in that moment. Just so you know. So if anybody ever asks you, if you ever want to say something crazy to somebody, just say, I get high with Dr. Boyce sometimes. Well, whenever we're talking about money, every single study out here pretty much says that money is connected to dopamine. That when you get that payday and when you make that money, you are high as a kite. I mean, tell me I'm lying. You know how good you feel when you make money. And so I wanted to look at the stock and see how it's doing, but like my Robinhood is acting weird. I don't know if anybody else had the same issue. I wonder if it's related to that issue with Amazon Web Services yesterday. Yeah, this is crazy. It didn't open up for me. So anyway, with that being said, um, dope is good. There we go. Say yes to drugs. Just, I'm kidding. Just say yes to dope and just give yourself dopamine in a good way. Where else can you get it? There's something called a runner's high that you can get from running. I think I know that laughing releases dopamine. That's why people like to laugh. And love, obviously, loving the right person obviously releases dopamine. But don't be sleeping around with nasty people because that'll give you dopamine and an STD. And but then also money, making money, investing, learning new things, finding new possibilities. Freedom releases dopamine. So I think it's okay to do all these things. Just think about where you're getting it from, right? So using dopamine to your advantage might come in the form of saving and investing. So even when you see a few extra dollars, that can trigger satisfaction and confidence. The same psychology that keeps people going into fitness or learning goals. So that feeling of progress makes you want to contribute more and learn faster. So you're getting the reward feedback and it makes you just want to do more of it. All right. So there's one more thing. There's something called the compounding mindset. So starting with small amounts reframes wealth as a process, not an event. That is so freaking important. That is so important. Life is not a series of events where you climb the mountain and you stand at the top of the mountain and say, look at me, I'm on the top of this mountain. That's not the joy of it all. The joy is the process. And in fact, your life is like 99% process, 1% event. Right? So like when I got my PhD, there was the event of walking across the stage, which made me cry and getting hooded. But there was like a 10-year process in terms of all the education and everything else that I had to go through. And so if you hate the process but only want the event, that leads to a really depressing life. It really does. So the same thing is true with wealth. Rather than enjoying the event of having that first 100,000 in your account or that first million in your account, which is going to be wonderful when it happens, I want you to also find some reason to fall in love with the process. the process of saving, the process of investing, the process of learning, the process of your personal transformation and the transformation of your family. That is the part that you're going to remember. That's the part that's going to really, really drill into you, not the mountaintop of like, now look at me, I have a whole bunch of money, because that's just not going to last very long, to be honest with you. You're going to be happy about it for sure, and you're going to feel more secure, but money doesn't do for you what some people think that it does. But it's relevant though, and it's important. But really connect to the process. And so when you get this dopamine infused, consistent process that's leading you down a path that you know is going to create massive amounts of generational wealth for you and your kids and your grandkids and your nieces and nephews and play cousins, that's a really powerful thing. And that's something I encourage you to enjoy. And I also encourage you to not define the relevance of the process by how much money you have. A lot of us think, well, because I don't have a lot of money, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars, I don't have millions of dollars, what can I do? Why am I important in this? You're very important. My grandmother did not have a lot of money. My grandmother never made more than $20,000, $22,000 a year. But my grandmother is the reason I'm standing here talking to you now. I learned some of my most important economic principles from my grandmother. So her common sense understanding, her sort of pre-integration understanding of the world. She was, I think she was about 32 years old when Dr. King got killed. So she had, been born in the Great Depression. She lived through a lot of poverty, a lot of tough experiences, and she learned early to handle her business and take care of herself and take care of her family, and she knew that nobody was coming to save her. And I personally think that was just the most powerful thing I ever learned, that wisdom from her and my grandfather too, the same way. It just that fueled me so much more than the stuff I've seen in the last 30 or 40 years. It really did. It really did. My grandfather, his name was Bobby. The grandfather on my mother's side, his name was Bobby, and he was a big minister, Farrakhan guy, actually, back in the, but he was about the same age as the minister. But he was all about, black men being strong and powerful. He took good care of his family. He was a good man. And then on my father's side, my grandfather was, I have two grandfathers on my father's side because I have two fathers, if you know my story, right? And both of those men were just solid, solid, solid men. They just, and a lot of you have seen this. You've seen where the men have kind of changed and the women have kind of changed. And it's, I guess it's life. I don't know. They're not very good at making families. They're not very good at sacrificing for the good of the collective. Everything's all about like me doing me, and I'm gonna choose me, and me, 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 me. They sound like they're preparing for the opera. Me, 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 me. Right? And I don't understand that language, because the strongest men and women in my family that I saw were people that understood that the collective and the family unit was paramount to everything else. And I'm not here to tell anybody, and I'm not here to lecture nobody about that. But I am here to say that when I looked at the structures of their families, there was a lot more security in that collective unit than there is in people running around screaming me, 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 me. Right? I just I don't get that. I will tell you the truth. If I was young again, and I'm being Uncle Boyce here, I'm gonna shut up about this after I'm done with this. But I gotta say it, if I was young again and I decided to, get married and have a bunch of kids, don't tell my wife. I love my wife, but if I was 22 and I would chase her down and I'd say, let's just start having babies right now, and I probably have like 6 or 7 kids, and you know what? I would be the kind of husband who would absolutely 100% without a doubt keep the marriage together for the kids. Wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter how hard it was for me. It wouldn't matter how happy or unhappy I was, all that stuff. And I know that's so controversial for a lot of people. A lot of people feel like that's an unacceptable approach. But to me, the survival and the happiness and the prosperity of my children would absolutely be paramount, and it would what's the word? It would take precedence over my personal comfort or happiness or how many girls I would be able to sleep with, or silly stuff like that. And again, I'm not judging anybody's decision. I'm just saying it out loud so that if you are a person who thinks that way, you'll know that there's nothing wrong with you. I'm not telling you there's something wrong with you. Now I get it. I understand. You have terrible things that happen in marriages or whatever. Like what was that lady? The poor lady in Houston, Robin Simpson, who was part of the B1 family, and she got killed by her husband. He stabbed her 100 times in front of their daughter. You should go look it up. Go look it up. It's still going on. The case is still in court right now. Her name is Robin Simpson. She again, she's part of the family. She's come to the All Black National Convention and everything. And I heard about what her husband did, and I met her husband, and that's the part that just made me so sad. And I just hate that. So obviously situations like that are an exception for sure. But in general, though, I think that the idea of if you are in a tough spot, or you're just not comfortable, or you just don't like each other as much as you used to. I don't know. I kind of think kids get affected when the family breaks up, and you see a lot of, particularly I notice a lot of moms having trouble with their teenage boys. And nobody really talks about that. But I know exactly why. It's because when a boy's about 13 or 14, he ain't really listening to mama like that no more. He's just not. He's bigger than her. He's stronger than her. He's got testosterone. He can do whatever he wants. He understands like that she's not a real physical threat to him anymore. And the thing that kept me in line when I was a teenage boy was my father. I feared my father. Now I had a police captain for a dad, so that was a different that's a different level of fatherhood, right? When you're dealing with a cop. Every day I got up. That's why it's funny. My relationship when people talk about cops and black men, that was my whole life. Day I walked out of my bedroom, there was a cop standing right there, and I didn't dare cross the police officer. So when police officers pulled me over, I would cooperate. Here's my license. Here's my whatever, right? So I would just say that, but generally speaking, I don't know why no one ever really talks about that, and just speaks to the fact that a father has a certain disposition and a certain amount of authority that the son's going to respond to, just like a football coach or whatever. And we somehow have tricked ourselves into believing that that's not important. And it is important. It's just as important as what the mothers can do. Mothers can do things fathers can't do. So the broken black family, I stand on this to the day I die. The broken black family is the number one wealth killer in society right now. The inability of black families to even get along, like even if you break up, like the fact that people can't put their own ego to the side and just get along and keep the peace, or choose carefully when they're mating with other people, that is what is ruining wealth. So that goes back to that dopamine issue earlier. When you're chasing dopamine in the wrong way as a void filler for undiagnosed, untreated trauma, so you're sleeping around with any man who's nice to you because your father left you and you're searching for love, or you're sleeping with any woman who looks good because you have these issues, these stressors that you don't know how to process properly. Then what happens is you create these sloppy family structures that end up depleting wealth. There's hardly any family that has baby mama, baby daddy issues that's financially secure. Sometimes it happens. Every now and then you have one person that can just do really well and it can all work out. But most cases, family stability is highly correlated with the stability of wealth. If you're not stable in your original form of wealth, which is your family, then what makes you think you're going to be stable when it comes to financial wealth? Do you understand? Like you're not stable over here, so why would I think you're going to be stable over there or anywhere? So stability, that's the key. Um, that's really fundamental to economics. I mean, economic theory pretty much says that instability and volatility and uncertainty are killers of wealth. You don't believe me? Watch what would happen if Donald Trump got on Twitter and said, I don't know, I might launch a nuclear missile at China tomorrow. Watch what the stock market does. Let's say he doesn't say I'm going to do it. Let's say he's just posturing. He says, I was looking at the nuclear football and I was thinking it'd be great to shoot that sucker over at Beijing. Like, like watch what happens to the stock market when that uncertainty is introduced. Not one thing has changed now. Pay attention now. Not that one thing has changed. Walmart isn't making any less money than it was making yesterday. Costco is still an amazing company like it was last week. Amazon is still killing it like they've always killed it, but all their stock prices would instantly drop, and each of those companies would lose 50, $100 billion in economic value just from the presence of uncertainty, just from the presence of volatility, just from the presence of instability. So I want you to look at the black community as a stock, and I want you to look at the black family as a stock and with a stock price. And I want you to look at a family that's got stability, certainty, and consistency, and look at their stock price. And then I want you to look at the family that's got chaos, trauma, and instability, and look at their stock price. Look at the wealth of the stable family and look at the wealth of the unstable family. Look at that. Look at how safe the children feel in each situation. Look at all of these things. So you do not have to know mathematics to know these things, but because of what I do, this is the kind of stuff we can show mathematically. It's not hard to do. It's 2 plus 2 for people like me. It's easy to show you. I can show you equations that prove this. So if you want your wealth to go up, then start by increasing the stability. If you want your wealth to rise, then your consistency should rise too. So what are you doing consistently? Where are you creating stability? Where are you aiming for stability? Are you inviting stable people into your space? Are you having stable relationships? Are you making stable, consistent choices? Are you making chaotic choices? Are you constantly having regrets from the choices that you make because you're not thinking it through? Are you processing information before you make a move, or are you just jumping from one thing to another? The instability kills wealth. That is a fact. And that is one of the biggest things I can talk to you about today. So maybe the word for today would be stability. How about stability? Stability is related to wealth preservation. Stability is related to consistent growth. Stability is related to the ability to protect and preserve what you have. Stable, consistent families tend to be conservative families. They're conservative because they want things to be conserved. They want to keep things stable. Like, no, we're not wild and crazy. We're not wilding at the club. No, we're going to sit down with our portfolio manager and make sure the children understand how to make stable, intelligent choices so you don't mess up this good thing we got going on here. Ain't none of us got to go to work because we've got this stability, and this stable structure is what is protecting us. So you're not going to ruin the stable structure with unstable behavior, young man, because if you do, we're going to write you out of the will. So you can bring that big booty stripper into the house and say that's going to be your wife, but guess what? Your inheritance has now been taken away. So you can go figure it out on your own if you want to, but that's not going to happen in this family because we aim for stability and structure, because structure develops institutional wealth. Families become institutions when they engage in stable, structured behavior over a long period of time. So aim for the structure, aim for the stability. The chaos, the chaos is that leads to slavery. That's what happens. When you don't have the discipline to manage your life, capitalism comes along and manages it for you. Because you were too chaotic to save money consistently, now you got to go to work for a corporation where they're going to use their stability and their structure to manage you and control you. If you are chaotic and wilding out in the streets, well, then the state, the government comes along and the officers lock you up and put you in prison, where now you have to get up at 6 in the morning. You got to wear the same outfit every day and you have to do what you're told. Do you understand? So the question is, where are you going to get your stability from? Are you going to get it from internal sources or external sources? Are you going to self-regulate, or is the world going to have to regulate you? Are you going to regulate your finances, or will the corporation regulate your finances? Because you can't find $1 billion company anywhere that doesn't have consistency and stability and structure. That's what they're built on. So consistency, stability, and structure are the precursors to wealth creation. They're the precursor of the growth of wealth, and they're a precursor of the conservation of wealth. Does that make sense? Give me a yes if you follow what I'm saying. I repeated myself a couple of times because I really thought about it. I said, man, I really want to make sure this point gets through. I really hope you're getting this. And for the kids in here, just remember that word stability. Never forget that word stability. You aim for stability, consistency, and structure. That is what is going to make you rich. All right. So I'm going to finish up for today. Here's that link again to get the discount to join the Stock Market Investors Club. So if you want to join us at noon, we're going to be in there at noon today and yapping it up about stocks and everything else. You can ask me a million questions and stuff like that. The link's right there in the chat. And also, there was one more thing I wanted to mention I forgot about. Oh, this week, Micah Smith, our resident AI expert, is going to do an AI boot camp for 3 days, where she's going to show you how to make a music video with AI. She made a music video for a song that's being played on the radio in LA. So if you have an interest in becoming a musical artist, AI lets you kind of do whatever you want now. You can join the AI Empire Society. So that's our AI group. The URL is AIEmpiresociety.com. That's AIEmpiresociety.com. And also, of course, if you have an interest in other things going on with AI, you can text the word AI to the number 87948. So text AI on your phone to 87948, and we'll send you more information about other things we have going on.